Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the work session of March 26, 2024. I know we have an exciting one, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Manager.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The first and really only agenda item this afternoon is to discuss the city manager's fiscal year 2025 recommended operating budget. And so what I'd like to do is just provide you with a brief summary of the overall budget, and then I would like to then ask Lisa Cipriano, our Director for the Department of Budget and Evaluation, to come forward and make a presentation to you today. The total recommended FY 2025 operating budget is $1.1 billion, which is 3.4% higher than the current fiscal year revised budget. The total recommended FY 2025 operating budget includes the general fund, schools, waterworks, and all special revenue and trust funds. The recommended general fund operating budget is $624 million, which is 2.4% higher than the revised FY 24 budget. The recommended FY 25 operating budget is based on maintaining the real estate tax rate at $1.18 per 100 of assessed value. There are no recommended changes to the personal property tax rate of $4.50 per 100 of assessed value. Self-supporting funds are anticipated to have sufficient revenues for operations, and as such, no user fee rate changes are recommended for FY 2025. Overall, the recommended FY 2025 operating budget builds upon the transformative initiatives that we are currently implementing at the present time, while also ensuring the services, projects, and investment our city and residents need to continue to grow and thrive. I trust you'll find the new program-based budget format easy to read and relate to your strategic plan priorities that will be distributed to you this afternoon. I want to thank the budget staff for all of their dedication and support throughout the budget development process. At the end of the presentation today, City Council will be asked to vote on the proposed dates of the public hearings on the budget. These dates are Tuesday, April the 9th in the City Council chambers, and Thursday, April 11th at the Denby Community Center. City Attorney, I believe, has placed the motion for dates at each one of your places. Thank you so much. Lisa.
Before we actually start with the budget, I think there's 3 or 4 of us that have to do disclosures, so I will be the first to start. I, Mayor Philip Jones, have a personal interest in the consideration and adoption of the fiscal 2025 operating budget, as my wife is an employee of Riverside Healthcare Association, Inc., which is a business affected by the transaction. However, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3112 Bravo, I am not disqualified from participating in the consideration and adoption of the budget. My disclosure statement required under Virginia Code is on file with the City Clerk.
I, Curtis D. Bethany III, have a personal interest in the consideration and adoption of the FY 2025 operating budget, as I am an employee of Ferguson Enterprises, Incorporated, which is a business affected by the transaction. However, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3112B1, I am not disqualified from participating in the consideration and adoption of the budget. My disclosure statement required under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3115H is on file with the best city clerk in the world.
I, Cleanum Long, have a personal interest in the consideration and adoption of the fiscal year 2025 operating budget, as I am an employee of Newport News Shipbuilding, the division of Huntington Ingalls Industry, which is a business affected by the transaction. However, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3112 Bravo 1, I am not disqualified from participating in the consideration and adoption of the budget. My disclosure statement required under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3115 Hotel is on file with the City Clerk.
Is there any more? All right, Bob says we're good.
Well, welcome to the happiest day of the year. This is the budget presentation day for the city manager, and today is the culmination of many hours of work, many months of work, and our active listening to citizens, to City Council, and to the greater public on things that are important to the city of Newport News and how we move forward. I want to remind everyone that the current fiscal year, FY24, that budget was built for a recession. It was built to withstand budget cuts, revenue cuts, and the like. And while there is a lot of conservative thought still within the upcoming budget, we're still preparing for some economic disruption. We're hoping for a lower level than what has been predicted in the past. A lot of the things that you will see today actually get their start in this fiscal year. There are a lot of programming that we have taken advantage of where we are in the ideas, the concept, and the timing, and we are able to go ahead and start those programs now. So what you will see in the 25 budget is the actual full year funding and expansion of those programs that we're starting right now. So what we are seeing right now, the things that we had to take in consideration when we were making this budget, we still see hiccups in the supply chain. It's sometimes it's labor, sometimes it's material, sometimes it's product. There's still hiccups. It's not smooth, and we have to still plan for that. We are still seeing inflation, nothing like it was compared to this time last year, but it's still higher than the Federal Reserve's target. So we are still seeing some inflated prices that affect us as a city because we are a consumer of goods as well. And then when is the recession going to start? Is it going to start? How deep is it going to be? We still have to prepare for that. So what you will see in this operating budget is only a slight increase in the real estate assessment values as compared to prior years. What we saw in prior years was a 13% increase and a 9.5% increase, and it's much lower. So we're already seeing the drop in the bubble starting, the curve starting to go down, and we're preparing for that. However, our very sensitive consumer needs, consumers are still buying, they're still investing, they're still buying homes, and we're seeing additional revenue from that as compared to what we budgeted for in the current fiscal year. We are seeing a small drop in our machinery and tools. We have the final closure and build-out of and closeout of Continental, so you will see some machinery and tools difference there. And then our revenues, we are still anticipating to be stable, but again, preparing for a what-if later in fiscal year 2025. And as the city manager has already indicated, no real estate tax increase, no user fees. So all the rates that are for the citizens right now will be stable and consistent all the way through FY25. So the big news, our real estate assessment increased the levy on total levy is only going to increase by 2.14%, as compared in the current year of about 9.5%. There are 8 property tax categories in this tax group. Only one of them is showing a loss. All the other are showing small to moderate growth, but overall the levy is going up 2.14%. The tax rate will stay at $1.18 per 100 of assessed value, and with that increased levy, it will generate $2.5 million more than the current year. What we are seeing also that impacts the overall projection is we've seen an increased number in our disabled veterans tax exemption program. We have over 300 new applicants than we budgeted for in the current fiscal year, and that has an impact on what we actually will collect. So we're seeing some moderation in our revenue collections at that particular point. And because we keep seeing that tax exemption growing, the impact for this year, it's over $1 million in tax exemption that we will be paying more than we are in the current year, and we expect that trend to continue with our disabled veterans.
Can I ask
Yes, ma'am.
a question? You said we are seeing,
Pat, can you use your mic, please, for people on the screen? Thank you.
you said we have, we've seen an increase in that.
Yes, ma'am.
And would you go back to the other one?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
last slide. But we are only increasing 2.14% on the average of all property types?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, where is that loss going to be made up?
Primarily in the residential properties is where the disabled veterans have their tax exemption. It applies to their primary residence. It applies to a surviving spouse. And most recently, the state changed the exemption to include those military killed in action. So it's a very broad spectrum of tax exemption, and we're just going to see that change continuously. Notably, it was pointed out to us, if you're not involved with it personally, the United States has been in armed conflict for 20 years between Iraq, Afghanistan, and other campaigns. It's 20 years. So as people come and buy their houses into Newport News, we do see that change. And we have a large military population that we welcome and embrace. And this is just a condition of having members of disabled veterans in our population.
But there is no, no help from either the state or the national on those numbers?
No, ma'am. It would take another state action to put a cap on the amount of exemption. Right now, there's not one.
There's not a cap on it?
No, ma'am. On our deferred taxes, the cap is around $200,000 of value on the property and up to 1 acre. So if in a future legislative package there was a cap suggested, that could slow down the process.
Any chance of that going forward?
That would be up to City Council to ask that.
Thank you.
So personal property tax, the commissioner right now is in the process of finalizing the levy. The levy for personal property tax runs on a calendar year. So we have to actually kind of split and see where we are collecting right now, what would be collected for the upcoming year. Right now, the commissioner is seeing a decrease in vehicle value of about 15%. If you will remember, during the recession in FY22, there was a very huge spike in values, almost 33%, due to the used car market because of the supply chain issue. And City Council changed the assessment level for 1 year and 1 year only. Last year, the assessment was about 5% less than 100%, and now we're seeing 15% less. So we're seeing less assessment in value, but we're actually seeing more vehicles. So our personal property tax will end up to be about even to what we're collecting right now. And that increase is about $1.5 million. So this budget is actually built on several major considerations on expenditures. First and foremost, the continued investment in our safe and flourishing schools. Second, in employee compensation. As you've heard us say many times, the job market is tight. It's highly competitive, and to remain competitive in that market, we're investing in employee contributions to our pensions as well as into salaries. Our debt service is a fundamental building block in our operating budget, and we're investing further in our strategic priorities. We're recognizing the impact of inflation on some of our contractual services. But all of this being said, where we're placing our money is sustainable in future years. When we build a budget, we look to see where we came from, where we are right now, and where we're going in the future with the revenue. With every choice that we make on expenditures, we're looking to the sustainability of it for the future within the current revenues that we have. So the entire operating budget is $1,142,307,554. That's the entire operating budget. That includes the general fund, which has the primary services that most of our citizens are familiar with: libraries, parks, our public service and fire and police, our corrections, our codes enforcement. All of that is in the general fund. We have 22 special revenue and trust funds, and the pension fund is one of those. We have our user fee funds and the separate funds, and of course, the school fund falls within this number as well. So just a quick snapshot of the year-to-year change for all of these major funds is $37.2 million, or about 3.4% on a budget-to-budget basis. And the general fund on a budget-to-budget basis will be growing about $18 million. This is how it's represented pictorially, with the general fund being the largest fund of the entire operating budget at 42%, and schools follows at 26%. So just focusing on the general fund. Yes, ma'am.
Compare, I have a comparison from last year. The school budget, is that more than last year or less?
It's more, and I will speak to that directly, but a sneak peek, it's $5.2 million more than last year. That's the total school operating budget.
Right. And you're going to tell us why?
Yes, ma'am. I promise. So this is how the general fund budget has changed over time. The reason we included 2013 in here was this was really the bottom for us in the general fund in the 2008 recession that lasted 10 years for us. So 2013 was the bottom, the lowest point of our general fund. We grew the budget slightly by a tax increase in '24, and then you'll see on the farther closer ends in time, City Council reduced the tax rate from $1.22 to $1.20 in FY23, and then down to $1.18, the present rate, in 2024. And that brings us to a general fund budget of $624 million. Remember, included, embedded in the general fund is $5.2 million of federal and state grants that we know that we get routinely and on a regular basis, and we appropriate those as part of our budget, but they're really pass-through funds. So the revenues to support this budget, real estate tax increasing by $2.5 million. Personal property tax, as I mentioned before, by $1.5 million, and a loss of $1.1 million in machinery and tools tax. The next group of funding are consumer-sensitive taxes, our meals tax, our sales tax, our business professional license tax. All of these are affected by inflation, and so we are moderating, we are recognizing what we're collecting in the current year, but not being aggressive on those estimates should and when a recession come into play. We are getting additional state aid in the form of state highway maintenance revenue. We are also getting $1 million more for our juvenile services department for the community placement program that's going on right now that was not estimated in the current year. And then we have some additional money coming from other fees, not very much. So how this breaks down is 79% of the revenues come in two places and two places only. General property taxes, which are real estate, personal property, and machinery and tools, and other local taxes, which are our consumer-sensitive taxes, which are sales tax, meals tax, and B-polls. So this is our assessed value. And again, we're showing 2013, 2014, and 2015 because these were our low levels in our assessed values on our real estate taxable properties during the height of the recession for us. It's grown moderately over time until the pandemic hit, when we saw very high escalation in real estate values, and that's when City Council pulled back the tax rate. So our year-over-year change in our levy is $22.3 billion in taxable property for the current fiscal year, and it's increasing to $22.8 billion. A small increase. As you can see, it's one of the smaller increases year over year. This generates in real estate tax revenue with public service corporations and delinquencies, about $266 million in revenue, the majority of the general fund revenue. So again, the levy is anticipated to increase by 2.14%, with the tax rate remaining at $1.18 per 100 of assessed value. And 7 of the 8 property categories are showing an increase, with 1 showing a decrease.
Can you go back there? So
Yes, sir.
from 24 to 25, I see it's less. However, you're saying 2.14% increase on overall levy.
The tax relief for the disabled veterans
It's-
is generating actually less taxable dollars.
Okay, so that draws it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks funny.
Yeah.
We have a higher levy and more taxes, but the tax, after you develop that, the tax relief for what we know we won't collect
Okay.
comes off.
All right.
So a penny on the tax rate, real estate tax rate, is slightly less than $2.2 million. Personal property taxes, again, this number includes current and public service corporations and delinquencies at almost $70 million, with current taxes estimated at about $64 million. Machinery and tools, this is the decline that I had mentioned before due to the closure of Continental. So, actually, we build a budget to live within the revenues we have. The exciting part is what we can do with the revenues that we have. And this is where the excitement for us begins. So where are we investing our dollars? First of all, again, for the about 8th or 9th consecutive year, we are fully funding the superintendent's request at $3.5 million extra dollars in our local contribution to schools. This will aid in a salary adjustment for all school employees, as well as do continued investment in school safety. We're proposing a 3% general wage adjustment effective July 1st for all employees. In this current fiscal year, we started a compensation study. It was funded in the current fiscal year, started now. Its results are slightly out of sync with the operating budget, as the consultant is going to be working through the end of April on proposals. So what we could do, not knowing the results of that, not knowing the scale, not knowing what's coming, is set aside $2.6 million for a mid-year adjustment for public safety employees. Okay, I didn't know if Alan wanted to jump in at the time. No, he's fine.
So I'm sorry, quick, so this
Yeah.
is only for public safety, you said, right?
The
That's it?
mid-year adjustment at $2.6 million.
Okay.
Okay? Our commitment continues to be, and will always be, to fully fund both of our pension programs. It's a $2 million growth in cost for NERF, and a slightly less than $800,000 increase for our VRS. 6 new positions do not sound like very many, but we took the opportunity this year to do a lot of adjustments that I will address very shortly, and added new positions this year to take the opportunity of timing, programming, and the projected funds that we had available in the current year. So we only have 6 new positions in the general fund and 4 new positions in the other operating funds in general services and the animal shelter. We have been doing a 4-year increase on our contribution to vehicle replacement in the general fund. Our contribution level should be between the $3, $4, and $5 million. This extra $300,000 gets us just short of $4 million for annual vehicle replacements in the general fund. So this next item is one of those exciting things that we were able to do this year that's very important for the community, and we have added 12 new single-role paramedic positions in the current fiscal year. They're under recruitment right now. And what this will do will be replace the at least 12 firefighter medic positions that we have right now. Right now, the city has a dual role. You either show up on the scene and fight a fire, or you tend to the medical needs of those on the scene. This will dedicate 12 positions to medical paramedic responses only, thereby increasing the quality of medical care. This is a pilot program. It should free up additional staffing on the firefighter side. And so the full funding of this program in the upcoming year will be just short of $1 million. The next two programs, again, because of the timing of spring and summer activities and over the summer, we are starting midnight basketball program right now for youth as part of youth gang violence deterrence activities in a very positive programmatic redirection of energy. And while we're starting this year, to fund next year's portion will be $200,000. And the long-awaited Summer Youth Employment Program. Again, we're starting it this year and have some funds to do it for this year, but this $700,000 will fund the rest of the summer and the beginning of next year's as well. So a lot of programs are springing up from things that have already been started in this fiscal year, but we're completing the funding with the next year budget.
Can you go back one, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to, I don't need it this week or next week, but talking to I think Chicago and a few of these other cities, their retirement plans, like the outlays eventually just balloon and balloon. Can we just get some sort of report on what is going to be the high watermark for NERF and VRS? Because I'd imagine it's going to, someone's got to pay the piper in the next couple of years. I would love to know when that inflection point is going to hit for NERF and VRS.
We do an actuarial study every year. Comes out in October. We have one readily available. I believe, and I'm looking at the Director of Finance, we have about 6 to 8 years till we get to the top of the arc.
What's the high water mark per year?
That's total including the school's contribution, which is about $8 million.
8 mil. Okay.
So we can give you that detail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
just
that
send it.
looks like.
Perfect. Just like an email. Thank you. I'm just concerned about pensions.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we go back?
Yes, ma'am.
The midnight basketball, what, $2 million?
No, 200,000. I'm sorry, it's 0.2.
Oh,
And-
I
And again,
misread.
we're starting that program in this fiscal year. And so this is actually to complete it over the summer months and start next year's as well.
What's the main driver in that, so far as the cost? What's the main driver in?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Dr. Woodbury, the main cost is going to be roughly staffing, because you have to have officials, coaches, referees, and so forth to officiate the games. It's going to be tournament play.
How many are you planning on?
Getting a little ahead of myself, but we're still formulating a lot of the details, but we're going to have 2 locations on both sides of the city. One's going to be at Denby Community Center, and the other's going to be at Achievable Dream Tennis Center as well, because you have the greatest capacity in those 2 locations for tournament play.
And so how are you getting the notices out?
Yes, we're working very closely with our communications team, and they are also working with school system to push a registration drive out. That'll be coming out anytime now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Quick numerical recap of the categories and the changes on a year-to-year basis for the general fund. But moving on, we are a business of services. We don't create widgets. We don't manufacture anything but great quality services for our citizens. So therefore, the majority of our budget is based in salary and fringe benefits, and that's about 40% of our general fund. The second largest is our contribution to schools at $123 million, is 20%. Our debt, which fuels our capital projects development, is about 6% at $45 million. And everything that is not a salary, is not a contribution to schools, is not debt. So everything else, building maintenance, fuels, our community support, our health and welfare department, our public safety and corrections falls within that other wedge at 26%. And here's how the tax dollar is divided up, with the 20% of every tax dollars going to schools, all the way down to 1% supporting the grants. So if I failed to mention before, let me mention again that this budget was built on our strategic priorities. Every one of these elements is a fundamental key part and has a role in this operating budget. So under these categories, we are expanding our attention on homelessness. We are particularly expanding our housing assistance program. If we can keep individuals from becoming homeless or they are at risk, it creates a better outcome for that individual from staying in a housed position. So we're adding money to our housing broker team to keep that going. As I mentioned before, we're adding 12 paramedic positions in the current fiscal year, and we're going to fully fund those in FY25. And we're also adding a part-time operational medical director for EMS that's required to have EMS service within the city. We are funding 6 new community support agencies. There are 25 applicants. The 6 that are funded augment and complement the services that the city provides. And these are specialists in housing assistance, health services, youth mentorship, and education. And of course, we're fully funding our retirement contributions. Under education and learning, we're increasing our payment to schools by $3.5 million. And also importantly, started in this fiscal year was a human services program called Parents as Teachers. And that helped grab 80 families who needed additional service for preschool and school-age children. And this actually funds more programming opportunities there in DHS. Yes, ma'am.
Say more about that parents as teachers. How many are in that program?
The expansion this year added 80 families, or up to 80 families.
It was going to once up and running up.
I couldn't hear you. What?
So the new plans are to add an additional team, and once they're up and running, it would be. Sorry about that. So it's a new team this year, and once they're up and running, it's going to be up to be able to have the capacity for 80 families.
Are they across the city or in one section of the city or where?
Oh, Ginger's here, even better.
Passing my mic around.
The families are.
You might get
throughout-
it back.
The families are throughout Newport News, the entire city.
The entire
The
city?
entire city, yes.
And is it located in a specific place
So parents and teachers is run out of the Department of Human Services at Rouse Tower.
at Boston? Okay.
And they're helping, the parents are, coming to the school as teachers?
No, so the staff that we have, family support specialists, go into the homes and help parents train and teach their children, and providing wraparound services for supports that they need in the home.
So they go into the home?
They go into their home visiting program.
And how many total do you have?
How many?
Total?
So we have 3, this will have 3 teams, so 3 teams. This will have an additional 80 families that we can support with this team coming.
So additional 80. How many do
Additional
you
80.
have in
So
addition?
right now, we have 160 families
Families involved?
involved. That's right.
All right, thank you.
And so if you're working with human services in conjunction with the schools, or this is just
So we do support the schools if they identify children and families who need services through us, through the parents as teachers. The teachers is not the teacher, the traditional teacher. It is just the form of training and teaching in the home.
Oh, teaching, okay.
But it's the family, it's the parents that's doing the teaching.
So who trains the parents?
The family services specialist from Human Services. It's
And
an
how many
evidence-
of those do you have?
24 employees in that program.
Thank you.
Okay, Summer Youth Employment Program, you heard that presented to City Council a couple of weeks ago, and that's on track to start the application and notification process in the next couple of months with a, I believe, June start date for the students themselves.
Where is that located? Who's in charge of that?
The Summer Youth Program?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Woodbury, was your question about the Summer Youth Program?
Yes. Who is in charge of that?
Here.
Green line? So, Dr. Woodbury, we had a presentation a few weeks ago, I believe. It's going to be run out of Brooks Crossing Opportunity Center. We've also hired a consultant to assist with that. They are very close from being official, and then there's going to be the application process over the next couple, the next month, and then it actually will begin in June.
No, but I mean, who is over it? Your department?
Brooks Crossing Opportunity Center.
First Crossing?
Yep. Larry
Brooks
Brunson
Crossing.
presented
Right.
last month, I believe. Yeah. So Brooks Crossing is where it will be physically located.
I see. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the Chance to Shine program was, and Ginger's smiling, a wonderful idea that has been coming to fruition over time because there's a lot of technicalities that we had to work out. But there will be members of council that will remember back to the early days of the Four Oaks Day Service Center, the concern about finding jobs and meaningful employees for the guests that are there during the day. This is a program that we're starting again in this fiscal year to take some of the guests and visitors to Four Oaks and put them in jobs that will assist the city departments that need additional help. It will be paid employment, and hopefully will be a path to permanent employment, which again would lead a path to being housing secure. So this is a pilot program going on right now, but we're very excited to see this come to fruition after many years of thought and discussion.
About how many guests will be helped by this program, or is it allotment set?
Ginger's coming around again.
10 patrons will be helped doing this pilot process.
Could I ask if they still will not allow overnight at Four Oaks? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any way we can start changing that?
I think that would be the conversation that you all will have with the council.
Yeah, I've got it. Thank you. So that comes from City Council. It's
I
not
know.
yeah, I think it's, I know Councilman Long is leading up the regional housing plan. Perhaps you want to talk
Yeah.
about that? Thank
So
you.
We're going to have the regional study, and out of that study, we should get some more information on how we, as a region, can help out with overnight sheltering.
But is that still prohibitive, is what I'm saying? Because we have this resource, and it seems to me, instead of doing churches, we should be doing Four Oaks, 24/7. And the rules can be the same. They can have, I've forgotten where the name of the one up in Denby, upper part of Denby, that they can only stay there so long, and they get training, and they get you know, they have to do the program in order to stay there. But I just don't understand why it isn't a 24/7 thing.
It's not a residential facility currently because of the way that the zoning text amendment was established and adopted by not only the Planning Commission, but the City Council. So if that is a use that you want to go back and visit, then we would probably need to go through the process of amending the zoning ordinance, gaining community input from the adjacent property owners, and then bringing the matter back to City Council for its adoption.
Alan, when do you anticipate the regional study be completed?
I anticipate that it will be completed in approximately 6 to 8 months.
Okay. So, I mean, I think at 6, 8 months, we should have a better idea of what, not just Newport News, but the York County, Williamsburg, Hampton, how they can contribute to the whole population of housing the homeless. I would rather wait to that time period. I want to see homeless sheltered, but to bring the region together, because it's not just a Newport News issue.
Oh, I know it is.
It's across the area.
I concur. Thank you.
The last bullet on this slide is we are in active conversations with a health provider in the city to look at how we can provide trauma-informed care for gun violence victims, for additional services for our homeless population, and we have a place holder for that in this operating budget while we continue those conversations. Midnight basketball, of course, I've spoken to before, and something we have heard City Council express concern about. This budget will eliminate residents' participation registration fees for parks and recreation athletic programs, for soccer, basketball, and other sports like field hockey, recognizing that those registration fees might be a barrier to participation, and again, participating in positive activities to help reduce gang violence. Yes, sir.
Yes, so midnight basketball, although I know there's a fun element to it, when we first even started talking about potentially doing this, I think it was, it leans more on the public safety, and because we are targeting a specific group of youth and hoping to deem it one of the safest nights in the city. So I know you all are still working on that, but I don't want to downplay us focusing on the fun aspect. Like something fun is expanding the Port Warwick series, that's just an example, so that the greater population of the city can enjoy and benefit from it versus something so small, I guess, in scope as far as who we're trying to target, if that makes sense. And so I think I just want to highlight that. And then also, as we're working through this, I think Councilman Harris and I can be a huge resource and asset in trying to make sure we're targeting the right folks. So I hope that you all will lean on us for sure.
I just have one thing, Lisa, now, is with that, and with the parenting program, now, will some of these things come out of because it sounds like a community support, consideration for.
So there's so many good threads here of discussion. I don't know where to start. To respond to the vice, excuse me, to respond to the vice mayor. And David will come up in a minute and say I'm stealing his thunder, but David and others have been working hard on incorporating all of our community-based organizations that you're currently funding to be present during these midnight basketball games. So the idea is to create a resource for individuals who may need or seek the services of some of the community-based organizations who will be present at each one of the games. So they will be identifiable with a special shirt that identifies them as a resource person, and they will also have scheduled presentations throughout the course of the midnight basketball program. In addition, we've factored in opportunities to discuss jobs, to discuss employment, to discuss mentoring. So it's not just about basketball, but it is about engaging young people where they are the common place for that to occur is on the basketball court. And I think that in looking at other programs, it also has the promise of attracting families who are also there to support the youth to engage in those services as well. So I think this is, one component of what you heard the mayor speak about during our State of the City address with his Operation Moonshot. So it's not only about playing basketball, it's not only about reducing fees so that young people have greater access to recreational programs, but it's also combining all of these efforts under the umbrella of an Office of Community Violence Prevention. And so we have funding in the budget, and one of the things that we're going to provide you with, you won't get them today, we didn't want to inundate you with information, but you'll also be getting in the days ahead some position papers. And these position papers are a traditional tool that we use sometimes to prep the council for further discussion at work sessions. And so I'll be providing you with a position paper that talks about some of the new offices that we are establishing in the city manager's office to do a better job of coordinating and prioritizing the strategic priorities that this council has brought forward, from sustainability to also providing greater coordination of those activities that relate to violence intervention and violence disruption. So that will be one individual who initially, like the Office on Innovation, will be hired, and he or she will have the opportunity to bring on additional staff. And this will be an item that I think Lisa will talk about a little bit later, an opportunity to coordinate with the trauma-based hospital care system that exists at Riverside to build out the city's abilities to not only successfully engage, but to see better outcomes for youth who've not only been victims of crime, but who we may be able to intercept before they experience at-risk behavior.
And my only reason for mentioning is it seemed like putting it under health, safety, and well-being. I know as we track this, whether KPIs or benchmarking, I just want to make sure that we are capturing the right information. That's it.
Under welcoming communities, we're going to continue our LED streetlight conversion, and our trolleys are here. They're ready to be used. They were anticipated to be used during the honorary street naming event. Mother Nature had a different view, and so they were not used. But these trolleys will be used for guided tours, event transportation, community special events, and to fully staff those and operate them, we're adding money in the operating budget. Again, 3% salary adjustment for all eligible employees is included in the budget, as well as pending the outcome of the compensation study, a mid-year implementation for the public safety portion of the compensation program. Again, this evaluation will continue with the consultant through April, and we're looking for an outcome that will provide a step plan for public safety recommendation, as well as compensation for other employees. Debt service, of course, is fully funded, as well as our cash capital for the upcoming CIP. One of the other programs that we have found ourselves engaged in this particular fiscal year, with the closing of the regional jail, the inmates housed in Portsmouth are coming back to our regional jail, and we've are expanding our services there as far as food, utilities, wearing apparel. All of that needs to be expanded to accommodate the additional population in our Newport News jail.
Lisa, I should ask on that last slide, that when the study is complete in April, will that be brought back so we can see how the layout will be for handling
The
the STEP program?
compensation,
Okay.
Could I ask a question about cash capital? What is our total in that already?
It'll be closer to 20 million for the upcoming fiscal year. It covers everything from, it's for projects that are smaller, $250,000 or less. $2 million of that since 2009 has been for school bus replacement. We have arterial paving in there, we have our parks and recreation facility repairs in there, we have our own building renovations and maintenance in there. So it's a large pocket of money, but it's using cash instead of incurring more additional debt. So it's for smaller projects, but it's a hefty number when you add it all up.
But now we're adding 15 million, so,
No, that is the number.
oh, that is.
Yeah, that's
all
the
right,
total
thank
number,
you.
yes. Mhm. It'd be nice to add 15 million. You want to raise the tax rate? No? No takers on that one? Sorry. So, no, 15 million is the base. Vehicle replacement, I've mentioned before. We're seeing great fuel efficiency with newer vehicles on the road by the investment of the replacement happening more frequently. Our mix of vehicle types. So we will see an actual decrease in fuel costs in the upcoming year. And we are covering 5 new buildings for utilities that are not included in the current budget. That includes North Precinct, the move from the Denby Annex, which is being repurposed, which is part of these 5 facilities. But Police Precinct, North Precinct, we're now covering 100% in our operating budget. The new transportation center that's coming on, the Boys and Girls Club on Thorncliffe, and the opening of the Early Childhood Development Center in the Southeast. Those are all the facilities that are not in the current budget that we need to pay for in the upcoming year. So the 6 positions that we are adding, City Council saw 2 weeks ago the proposed CIP. There are some very large, robust, complicated projects in that CIP. And by adding 1 architect in engineering, that'll help with the project management on a day-to-day basis. The city has been experiencing, since the beginning of time, FOIA requests. They're more complicated and complex over time, and it really requires a dedicated position solely focused on the legality, the information flow, and the processing of those requests, and we are adding a position for that. Yes, sir. 5 minutes. Go. Super fast. NNTV engineer, upgrading from part-time to full-time, a analyst B in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, 2 positions in human resources. So the other funds, schools, we've already talked about. Dr. Woodbury, this is where I promised I would talk about schools. Schools is only seeing a $5.2 million increase in revenue, 1.7 from the state, who is their largest funder. Their funding is based on population, and schools is seeing a declining population. So the increase is only 1.7, and the city's contribution is $3.5 million. So by far, the largest increase in the school's budget is coming from the city. The other funds, waterworks, solid waste, wastewater, and stormwater, all are part of the operating budget and are showing no rate or fee increases. So our next steps are, please adopt a public hearing schedule for tonight, please, so we could go ahead and get it published and prepare the public to come and speak to you in 2 weeks. The budget ad will be in Sunday's the 31st paper, and then April the 3rd at 6 o'clock tonight. The documents you will receive on the operating budget will be posted online. And then during the month of April, we will have additional work sessions based on City Council's desires. And we love to talk about the budget. So if you have any questions, please feel free to call us. You will be receiving 2 documents tonight, and as the city manager indicated, we're very excited about the new design. The new design is easy to read by categories and shows information by strategic priorities and by programs within the operating budget. But for those who love the classic information with the line item details, we have that in a separate document. So you will not need to be carrying around the line item detail if you don't want to. but all the program information and the details and the highlights will be in the smaller book. And again, all of this will be posted online, so you'll be able to see it and direct citizens to that. So,
One comment question. With that study, we will have it before we approve the budget, just in case we need to tweak some items in the budget, or how's that going to fall out?
hope to have it, yeah.
Will we have some kind of idea beforehand? All right. Okay.
Great job, Lisa. Just one last comment I'll make is, I know we saw 6 positions being created. Not sure if it's a real concern, but the unfilled, the vacancies that we have is something that I'm thinking about, and how long they've been unfilled and whether or not they should stay. But nevertheless, just wanted to flag that. We don't have to discuss it right now.
That's a question we ask every budget prep. Our solution is always when a department comes and asks for a new position, we always say, fill what you have first, or what are you willing to give up to get this position? So those were all strenuous conversations that we had during the budget hearings with the individual departments, but we have a list of positions. We always maintain a list of positions of vacancies to see if there could be a possibility of swapping out resources.
Okay.
So we're very sensitive to that.
All right.
We can pass out the binders at, like, after the meeting's done. Is there any other questions for Lisa right now? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Cleon?
All
Thank you,
right.
Lisa.
In accordance with Section 6.09 of the city charter, I move that Newport News City Council hold a public hearing on the fiscal year 2025 city operating budget. Public hearing on the budget shall begin on April 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the City Council chambers at City Hall. After receiving public comments on April 9th, 2024, it is the intention of City Council to continue this public hearing to April 11th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in room 113 of the Denver Community Center in order to receive comments from citizens unable to attend and speak on April 9th. In addition, a notice informing the public of time and place of this public hearing shall be published not less than 7 days prior to the date of public hearing.
We need a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Woodbury,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bethany,
4.
Councilman Harris,
4.
Mayor Jones,
4.
Councilman Long,
4.
Councilwoman Vick.
4.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. I think now we're going to move into comments, ideas, and suggestions. I'll start with Alan and go across the table.
None, sir.
Nothing, sir.
None, sir.
None.
Just a quick question or comment. I saw one of the emails that came out about a grant proposing to local government energy programs, community spark and investment, transformative energy. I thought about that from the standpoint of when we start building some of these public spaces that we need to start looking at charging stations, especially since Virginia in 2035 is going to roll out that no longer combustion engines can be sold. It'll be electric cars. So it's something for us to start thinking about, start kind of planning for it, and start adding some charging station for public usage. That's all I have.
I don't have anything.
No.
I just have a few things. So from the budget and finance team, thank you for all the hard work and the great PowerPoint. We really appreciate it. Look forward to doing some more work over the next couple of weeks on that due diligence. Just a few things that come to mind that we don't need to talk about now, but as we look at the budget, I just want to reiterate what the Vice was saying about the open positions. I do think we have a lot of unfilled. I think that's two-part. One is, do we need to close some positions? And then perhaps some things like waterworks, sheriff, police, we need to figure out a robust recruiting method for it. And so maybe there's more marketing dollars, maybe that's an HR function. I think it's a two-step when it comes to open positions. We talked about the pension. That's sort of top of mind, maybe not for this year, but year 4, year 5, year 6, I really think we're going to, I know we forecast that, but that's going to be a lot of money and things are going to have to be removed. So I just wanted to keep that top of mind for all of us. I'm really glad that we're able to fund the schools a full budget. I do still want to have that joint meeting with the school board. I think it's important to talk about the plan for accreditation. I know that's something that's on Dr. Woodbury's mind for a long time, but we're able to fund this. This is great, but I really do need to see a plan for accreditation and like a plan of action and milestones to get that accomplished. The last thing is nothing with the budget for this year, but I do know we're going to be in talks this summer for the timeline to launch our collective bargaining task force. So just want that, just nothing for this year, but this summer I do want to start that task force and just look at the options that we have. I think that's all that I have. Take us into closed session.
All right. Let's see what we got here. I move that pursuant to Section 2.2, TAC 3711 Alpha of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, subsection 5, 6, 7, and 39, that the council hold a closed meeting for the purpose of 5, a discussion concerning of prospective business or industry or the expansion of existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made, other business or industry's interest in locating or expanding facilities in the community, subject which is potential expansion of existing business in the southern section of the city. 6, a discussion or consideration of the investment of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, where if made publicly initially, the financial interest of the governmental unit will be adversely affected, the subject which is an investment of public funds involving a development in the northern section of the city. 7, the consultation with legal counsel pertaining to actual litigation where such consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating posture of the public body, the subject which is 3 cases involving Adams Outdoor Advertising LP in the city of Newport News. And 39, a discussion and consideration of propriety information voluntary provided by a private business pursuant to a promise of confidentiality from a public body used by the public body for business, trade, and tourism, development, or retention, subject which is the discussion report provided by NC to assist the city in analyzing its regional asset inventory.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Woodbury. 4. Vice Mayor Bethany.
4.
Councilman Harris.
4.
Mayor Jones.
4.
Councilman Long.
4.
Councilwoman Vick.
4.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, I move that members of council certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting by the council.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Woodbury. Vice Mayor Bethany.
4.
Councilman Harris.
4.
Mayor Jones.
4.
Councilman Long.
4.
Councilwoman Vick.
4.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.
Get your mic maybe.